Let's face it, business technology is frustrating and complex. So how do you make sure it works for your team? To make IT right, start the discussion at go-domain.com. You're listening to Discussions by Domain, a podcast for business leaders. Our discussions may be with people you've probably heard of before, but the majority of our guests are in the trenches, professionals like you and I, with the same challenges and struggles of keeping up in the Northeast. They're implementing strategies, overcoming hurdles. They're leading the fastest growing businesses in our region. My name is Anthony DeGraw, Director of Partnerships at Domain Computer Services, and the host of this show. When I'm not talking with business leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of Domain and the ups and downs of our own growth journey, as we intend to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome to another episode of Discussions by Domain. I am your host, Anthony DeGraw, Director of Partnerships over at Domain Computer Services. Today, my guest is Jason Friedman, founder and CEO of CX Formula, based in Mahwah, New Jersey. CX Formula helps fast-growing entrepreneurial companies gain an unfair advantage over their competition through the art and science of designing their customer experience journey. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Anthony. It's great to be here.
No problem. So before we started recording here, we were talking a bit about the storms here in New Jersey, but what I really want to start off with is, what does your morning routine look like, Jason? How did you start today?
My morning routine has gotten really, really good, and this has happened since January 5th of this year. So it's a great question for me now. 2019, it was a little fuzzy. So super cool. So my morning routine, I've always believed in a morning ritual. I love morning routines. I'm not a routine person in general. I'm the stereotypical entrepreneur, probably like many people that listen to this show. And so structure kind of freaks us out a little bit. We don't like structure, but structure within small doses has been super helpful for me. So that being said, I've always loved having morning ritual, morning routine, but I have not always been really rigid about it. Okay. And my New Year's resolution this year was that I am going to own my mornings. And so since January 5th was the day that I kind of put it all in place, I have absolutely owned my morning. So my morning routine, I get up, I do my teeth brushing, and I have a big glass of water, shower, get ready, and what have you. But then I go out and I spend 2 hours walking. Like, I love walking. I love, being outside or at my treadmill or what have you. But I have adopted this walking ritual. It gives me clear space to clear my head. It gives me thinking time, gives me me time, reflection time. And so every single day I spend about 2 hours in the morning walking. And I've set my life up to really allow me that space and that time. So everything is around that. Yeah.
That is so amazing. I love it. I think walking actually, I think, is highly overlooked as probably one of the healthiest things that you could do with a low impact on your actual body. I know we weren't going to spend the whole time on this, but I'm super passionate about this as well. You've been doing this about 9 months now. What is one of the main effects this has had on you as an entrepreneur?
I don't know if I could get it down to one, but, probably healthier than I've been, and I can't even tell you. Lost a bunch of weight, increased muscle, stronger, much more centered and balanced in general. And honestly, especially with this, I started this pre-COVID, right? And then through COVID, it's just been a nice way for me to stay grounded and connected to myself. And I think in general, I live and work 7 minutes from my house to my office, right? I used to have a longer commute, and I really appreciated that drive time to either prepare for the day or disconnect from the day and kind of dump my day before I got home to spend time with my kids and such. And so I didn't have that for a long time. And so this morning routine, and I actually do walk throughout the day, and I'll tell you more about that if you want, but but it gives me that opportunity to kind of prepare for the day, reflect on yesterday, prepare for what else I'm going to do, and really be focused and present. And I think presence as an idea, as a concept, as a business owner, as a father, as a friend, as a partner, whatever, I think presence is really important. And you need some time for me, I need some time to be able to, get everything in alignment so that I can be more present for everybody else.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. That's outstanding.
Sure.
Let's jump into the topic of the hour. Well, first, congrats on the Inc. 5000 again. You guys are really crushing it. But I wanted to start on some research I did on your firm with it's actually a stat that you have right on the center of your homepage, which is 80% of CEOs believe they deliver a superior customer experience, while only 8% of customers agree. You got to explain this to me.
Yeah. So you love your company, right? You're a business owner, you're a CEO, you're a corporate manager, whatever that is, whether you founded the company, you own the company, you operate the company, you believe in your business, right? You love it, you're passionate about it. And we oftentimes are not able to confront some of the brutal facts of our business. So when people say, like, how is your business? Like, what is your customer experience? Like, oh, my customer experience is amazing. It's fantastic. Like, people love us, right? And they don't actually listen to, to use an industry term, voice of customer. They don't really understand what all their customers are thinking. Or when they have that kind of squeaky wheel customer, they're like, oh, that person's just they're a jerk, or they're difficult, or they're unreasonable. But they're not like digging in to understand what those things are. So that statistic was a quote from Bain and Company, and they actually went out and they surveyed companies, and they used Fortune 1000s or Fortune 500. I don't remember the exact statistic, but they used companies that were publicly traded where they can get data. Yeah. And so they actually surveyed both sides. They surveyed the business owners, the CEOs, and they questioned surveyed the customers. And there was that disparity, which is that we call that the experience gap. Like there's this massive divide between what you as the business are looking at and thinking a lot of times and what the customer's thinking. And the wider that gap, the harder it is to retain customers, to build raving fans, to build loyalty, to have your customers kind of come out in force to support you, whether it be in additional sales or referrals to other people, or, just continuing to use your products and services. Brand loyalty, customer loyalty is so important, And so that statistic is kind of a wake-up call to a lot of people, and it's so important that we think about that. And what I help customers do a lot of times is to really look in the mirror and confront some of the brutal facts. It's not bad that you find out what these problems are. I mean, it's not great, but if you identify what these are and you have an awareness of it, now you can start to go back and reverse engineer. Why are these things happening? What are these issues that would make our customers be unhappy? And what is it that they're looking for? And oftentimes we find that it really is mismatched expectations, right? We're not actually setting and managing expectations. And a customer has an expectation whether you design it and you actually share that expectation and help set that expectation, or you don't. They're going to have one anyway. Yes. And they're having an experience, whether it's designed by you or it's a default experience as well. And so what we try and help customers do, and that statistic is a great jumping off point, is how do you intentionally design that experience that your customers have? What is that journey that they go on from pre-customer, when they're a prospect or they're in that kind of discovery research phase, looking for someone that can help them the way your business would help someone, all the way through to they've purchased, and now how do we continue to support them? And when you can start to look at that through the lens of the customer, looking at it through their glasses, through their where they're sitting, there's a lot of eye-opening information that comes out. And the businesses that embrace this and they confront those facts and they deal with it and they create the systems and the processes and the culture that supports that, they win every time. They crush it every single time.
I love it. Let's take a step back, and actually I'd love to hear from you. How do you define customer experience journey?
Yeah. So to me, a customer experience is the feelings that a customer has about the interactions with your brand or your business, right? The journey that they go on are all these touch points, all the various interactions that they have with your brand, from, again, pre-customer all the way through to, hopefully raving fan if they've purchased, and that post-purchase part of the experience. And so that customer journey is what they've gone on. It's all the touch points, all the interactions that they've had, and most importantly, how they feel about it. It's not always what you've done. There's a great quote by Maya Angelou that I share a lot, the famous poet. It's like, people never remember what you said. They don't remember what you do. They remember how you make them feel.
Yes.
And that's what it's about. And so as we think about experience, like all the things that you do impact that experience, but if you can understand it from that other person's perspective, how are they feeling about it? Do they feel cared for? Do they feel understood? Do they feel like you're supporting them? Then you'll win. And that journey is, if you design that journey and you really think about it strategically, it's hard to lose. It really is hard to lose.
Yeah, there's two different directions I want to take this right now. So I'm going to pose them both to you, and you take the one you like the most.
All right.
You've mentioned raving fans twice now. And the thing that comes to my mind is a gentleman by the name of Kevin Kelly wrote, I believe it was a blog post, but a really long one called 1,000 True Fans. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But
I'm not, no.
Okay, so we'll go in another direction.
Okay.
The other direction, I just brought it up with our team this week, is the Amazon effect of everything, which I think is, you can take that in multiple ways, but I want to talk about the customer experience specifically of the Amazon effect. So all of us are mostly consumers now of Amazon, and they have constantly pushed the needle on, thinking about the customer and how to make us happier, whether it's 2-day shipping or 1-day shipping or 1 hour shipping. They're always trying to improve this. How do we, as, for instance, we'll take my company, right, a professional service firm, how do we compete with that, or at least understand it and then help design these experiences for our customers?
So it's a great question, right? And I think, as you look at other businesses out there, one of the things we love to have people do is to go out there as a consumer and shop experiences.
Okay.
Go to Disney and see what are the elements of the experience that you feel really good about. What do you like? What do you not like? Why do you like it? And I tell people, create an experience journal, write down the things that happened and how it makes you feel, and then dig deeper and say, why did it make me feel that way? And a lot of times you'll find that it's an internal thing. Like, I have a memory from the past that it triggered that made me feel warm or great or whatever, right? With Amazon, when you buy something online, one of the things is, what if I buy the wrong thing? It's going to be a pain in the neck to return it. Well, with Amazon, it's not. It's super easy, super slick, so it removes that objection. It removes that frustration from them. Another thing is, if I go to the store, I can get it instantly. But if I buy it online, it's going to take time. They have to ship it. It's going to take, whatever. They're removing that barrier. So what they're doing is they're thinking through that customer experience. What are the obstacles to them for doing business with me? What are the things that they would most appreciate? What are the things that they most want? And they're systematically providing those things. So what I would say is, don't if you find a competitor, you can find a direct competitor of your business, and shop their experience, see what they're doing, see what, look on Amazon. If you're selling something on Amazon, look at the product reviews for competing products and see what people love and don't love about it. Right. Learn from all these experiences. You don't have to copy someone else's experience. You don't have to do it the same. The thing that's really true, a service is actually commoditized these days. It used to be where a product was the commodity and a service was the benefit, right? Services are commoditized now. The only thing that's really not commoditized that can be really, truly unique is the experience you create. That's what we believe. That's what we teach. That's how we help people think about it. And so you need to create your own unique brand experience. So look at the other things that are out there, and you can pull ideas from all these other people and then put it together in your own way, in your own journey for your customers. So as you're thinking about your business, think about from the customer's perspective. What are some of I like to use this idea. I got this from a gentleman by the name of Mike Koenigs, who's a great internet marketer, good friend. He would say, what are the frequently asked questions people have about doing business with your brand? What are the ones that they ask all the time? And some of those may have objections kind of hidden in them, where you can kind of pull those out and say, well, what if we could do something to alleviate this pressure point? Or what could we do that would make that how do we turn that into a positive? Maybe there's a way to turn it into a positive that the customers are not appreciating. And once you get through those FAQs, the frequently asked questions, then the next level is the should ask questions, SAQs. What are the questions that these customers should be asking about your brand? And so, and about the service, about the product, whatever. And as you start to think these through from that customer's perspective, you end up with this huge arsenal of opportunities that you can start to build and stitch into that journey. So when you think about buying on Amazon, what they're doing is they're going through from that customer perspective and saying, where are the things that are going to stop them from wanting to do business? Or what are the things that are frustrating them? And how do I remove those? How do I, if I can't fix something, how do I make it a benefit? How do I spin it? How do I turn it into a positive for them? And how do I make it a better experience for them on that journey? And every business can do this. Every business can do this. The thing that's most important to remember, and I talk about this in our program that when we teach this, is people don't want everything to be a 10 out of 10. Like, that's exhausting. First of all, like, if everything's amazing all the time, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, it's too much. And here's the other thing. If there's no contrast, like if there is no light, is there dark? If there is no skinny, is there fat? If there, like, you need the contrast, right? And so if everything's a 10, it's just average. It's not a 10 anymore. So like, if you baseline at like setting expectations of a 7, that I'm going to do what I say and I'm going to make it happen and everything's going to be great. That's cool. Then you can add an 8, which exceeds expectations. You can add a 9. You can add a 10 strategically. And they'll start to appreciate the 10 because there's a contrast to 7. They can see the jump and how much better that is. And if you kind of take them on that roller coaster, never getting too low, but ups and downs, people love that. That's where they can start to appreciate that. So when people say, oh my gosh, I always over deliver, I'm like, don't. Strategically over deliver. Find the moments that will have the most impact in the customer's from the customer's perspective through their lens, and pick those as the key moments to go above and beyond. And they will appreciate those above and beyond moments when they can differentiate them from the regular moments. So important.
You literally just put into words. So I'm obviously, this is a podcast. I'm a huge listener of podcasts. So sure. Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, who has moved on now, right? He interviewed recently Brian Chesky, the co-founder of Airbnb. And Brian mentioned on that episode of them they were in Y Combinator, and they go through this exercise with the founder of Y Combinator on exactly what you just mentioned. Literally, design me the experience of somebody checking in, and what are these issues that they're going to have, and how do you solve them? But also then, what's a 7? What's an 8? What's a 9? What's a 10? And you hear him literally thinking through this entire process of how you literally get from an 8 to a 9 or from a 10 to an 11. And he designed this through, and it's what separated them apart, which is super interesting. And
absolutely,
it's awesome that businesses in our area have they can reach out to you, number one, and go through this exercise as well. Because when I listened to it, I was like, that's what sets them apart. Is this?
Yeah.
I guess there's so many ways we could go. What is you're an expert at this. What is, you go into these businesses all the time, you're talking about this. What is any business you walk into, they're getting something wrong, the same thing wrong every single time. What is that one thing that you're going to have to educate them
on? There's a couple. The first thing is really, what is customer experience? Most people think that customer experience is customer service, which is telephone support.
Yeah.
And that is not the case, right? And so we already kind of defined customer experience. I won't go through that again. You can kind of rewind a little bit and hear that. But customer experience is how the customer feels. Customer service are the things that you do, right? There's not an equal sign there. So that's one very critical thing. They just don't understand what it is. Another really important thing is that the team, the employees, the people that make the business work are trained on the skills. They're trained on how to do the checklist for being a project manager. They're trained on how to answer the phone and route calls as a receptionist. They're trained on how to log things in the customer service and support system. They're not trained on how to really interact with customers and create that great experience. They're not taught how to listen. They're not taught how to understand what customers are actually saying and how to, be responsive and even proactive to manage customer challenges or opportunities, or even how to praise customers and give them kudos, like, when they need to. So like one of the most important things I find in businesses is to really get their employees and their teams to understand what customer experience is all about and start to actually share stories, like real case studies of excellent customer experience in action in your business, and start to really get clear. Like, mission, vision, values, I think is one of the most important things in a business. I'm sure you've talked to other people on your podcast that talk a lot about that. And it is not to be understated at all. Like mission, vision, values to me is almost everything. When you start looking at the core values of your business, like, integrity, honesty, respect, like whatever the ones are for your business, start to put stories behind those. Like, how has that showed up between employees? How's that showed up with our customers? What are some of the best ways that customers have experienced positive results? And start to incentivize our employees, whether it be through recognition, through monetary means, through performance-based compensation, through bonuses, through, whatever that is, but start to align customer experience outcomes with the behaviors that our employees and our teams are doing on a daily basis that beget those results. So if I start to compensate people based on the profitability of my business or closing sales, that's one thing. And that's really good from a financial perspective, but it's not as good from a customer experience perspective. So I like to have people start looking at the behaviors. What are the things that our team needs to be doing that we know are going to get us those results, that are going to get raving fans, that are going to get customers who want to refer us, that we get customers who are going to send an email in just thanking us for how amazing the experience they just had was, because it blew their mind. Yeah. When you start creating, incentives and education for employees on how to do things like that are going to get those results, again, you win almost every time. And it starts this really awesome flywheel spinning of momentum towards positive. And you got to celebrate that, right? Culture in your business is everything, in my opinion, right? Like, you can't have a great customer experience if you don't have a great employee experience. You can't have a great employee experience if they don't understand what experience is in the first place. So like I said, it starts with that definition and really understanding what it is, finding ways to demonstrate it through stories, through real world examples, not just a definition, but really, what does it look like when we are creating a great experience? How do our customers feel? How do you feel as a provider? What makes you tick? And then I think the last thing I would say is, when it comes to on this employee side, is instead of looking at job descriptions, we look at what we call position missions. What is the why for each role in the company? Why are they there? From an individual basis, and how does that connect to the company mission? How do we connect those dots? Like, how do you, as a bookkeeper in the accounting department that doesn't really interface with customers, doesn't see that direct correlation, why does your job matter so much? How is what you do lending to a great customer experience? And there's always a lot of ways, but they don't see it, they don't understand it, and we as leaders don't always explain it, and as managers don't always explain it, and they don't see the direct connection. And so when we start to expand our horizons and look at that for every role in the company, and really understand what their why is, how they fit into the bigger machine, amazing things kind of happen out of that. And that employee experience directly impacts that ultimate client experience.
Yeah, I really think that's taking it to the next level, which is if you're getting there as a company, you're really doing the right things. We're actually going through the core values thing right now again. And one of them that I'm passionate about is it's a play on words, but it's make IT human, make it human, right? IT is this it's this juggernaut. It's this thing that's confusing. It's technical. I'm not technical, blah, blah, blah. But how can, as you mentioned, every employee in our organization, whether it's frontline sales to backline finance specialist, make IT, this entire experience, more human, and then generate a better experience. So that's great. I have one more question for you. I know we're running up on time here.
Absolutely.
Real quick, before we get to that, on Jason's website, cxformula.com, he has 3 free hacks on how to wow your customers, get more word of mouth, and grow your business, which everyone can go and take advantage of. My final piece on this is, if you're doing all of these things right, from the customer experience journey to even getting to the employees and their roles and how does it tie into the overall mission, how do you amplify that? How do you take advantage of that as an organization?
I mean, I'm not sure that I'm going to answer this the right way. So dig in if I'm not going the right way. But the way I think about this is, again, it's a flywheel. It starts to spin and you build momentum, right? As you start to create this experience for your customers and for your employees, people talk about you when you give them something that's talk aboutable. Right. Yes. If you're giving them good things, like we're all sick of talking about COVID. It's a real issue. We got to deal with it. We're sick of talking about, people being out of work. We're sick of all the news and all the stuff that's going on. And if you're doing something that's amazing and you're creating value, people are going to talk about what you're doing. There's this momentum that builds and they start telling other people like most businesses I know, they're like, yeah, we have some advertising, we do some marketing, but it's all word of mouth. Like your business, how do you get clients? Referrals, word of mouth, right? That's how we all grow our business. All my best clients have always come from one person talking to another person, said, hey, who did that thing? Oh, you got to talk to Jason. That's how it happens, right? And if you're doing the right things with your culture, you're doing the right things with your employees, you're creating that employee experience, you're creating that customer experience, it starts to magnify outside it takes on a life of its own, right? Like when you said make IT human, right? Like what's the first thing that makes something human? It's got a name. Start naming parts of the things in IT like as people and start to give them a face, like start to make them have an avatar or a persona. And so as you start talking about, and then what happens is when you start talking about that with your employees and they start talking about with their clients, language starts to permeate. They start talking about your words. They take the words and the things that you've defined, that you've trademarked, that you've protected, and they start using them to explain it to other people. And they're like, wow, where did you get that? Then they Google it. And then they come up with your website and they start seeing it. As you start to create this experience, because humanizing IT is important, right? It's important. It's important for your team. It's important for your customers. That's what makes them want to work with you. And so as you start to give them language to use around that, and it starts to become a real thing, that's part of the experience. You made it understandable. Now they start talking about it using your language, and then other people find you. I don't know how to say it simpler than this. The more that you focus on what this experience is, the more it starts to come back to you from all different angles that you never could have expected. There's these strategic byproducts that are these ripple effects that kind of come out from all these angles. That will take you to the next level. Employees that you wish you could have found when you were dying to find, they come to you and they want to work with your business because they hear about how amazing it is. They hear about, the amazing, culture that you have, the amazing people that are there, like all sorts of amazing. And I don't want to sound all Pollyanna, but this is what actually happens. This is what's happened for me every single time that I've done this. And, we've grown a bunch of businesses. This is what happens with my clients, both large and small, corporations, as well as like small businesses. And so there's no better investment in your business than focusing on that client experience and that employee experience, like hands down, that I have ever found.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for that. Before I got 1 minute and I'm going to ask one more question. Who is another business leader here in the Northeast that you've gained value from, has been a mentor towards you, anything, doing something great here in the Northeast that you would recommend people check out?
Well, it's a little bit west of the Northeast, but the most kind of influential person that I could probably point to is Dan Sullivan from the Strategic Coach. I'm sure you maybe have heard of him before. Yep. I've been in the Strategic Coach. I was in the Strategic Coach for about 15 years. And that single-handedly changed my perspective on most things, like as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. And I couldn't more highly recommend a program or a coach or person. He's just tremendous.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Jason Friedman, founder and CEO of CX Formula in Mahwah, New Jersey. Jason, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device. To help us get the word out, share with a friend, leave a review, and check out our discussions on the web at go-domain.com/podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.